Hello, good afternoon, guys. So, this is me again, and I want to talk about a specific thing. And I want to talk about empowerment, about being alone, and how to empower yourself in a state of solitude. So, I can only talk about myself, about my life and the past, and how I grew up, and in which situations I found myself in and circumstances, and how to, with the time, figured out a way to get out of this, um, like slow but steady. So this was quite a journey, or still is quite a journey for me. And to be very honest, I was most of the time, when I look back, so at least the past 8 years, around about 8 to 10 years, I was completely on my own, more or less. And I used to have, most of the time, I used to have kind of a partner or another person to rely on or to connect to for a short period of time, but usually not very long. So maybe the longest was maybe 1 year or 2 months or 6 months or something. And then this person get out of touch, and we lost like the connection. And I was always looking for connection, in fact. And that I did not, that this was the hardest part for me. And with the time, I found this more and more, and I figured out a way. So for me, it was just like staying in my power, staying centered, staying like remaining a certain kind of faith, actually, because there were a lot of, yeah, a lot of, most of the time, or very often, I found myself in a state of I have to surrender. I don't know how to move on. I don't know the next step. I don't know how to carry on. Yeah. And it was never really like a lack of money or something, so that I'm out of money. It was like I lost connection to, I lost connection to my surroundings. So I did not, but it even strengthened the connection to the divine or to something higher at the same time, I guess I would say so. Yes, for example, I used to meditate uh, several years back. So in 2018, I started, and this was like 1.5 year. I used to meditate every day in the morning, usually, and this was one way to strengthen my connection to something higher. But before and afterwards, I had other approaches to strengthen that connection. Yeah, and still I find myself in a circumstance where it's still hard for me to connect, to really deeply connect, and really build a deep bond to at least one person. Yeah, and it was more like the people around me, they were or are or were more and more kind of forced to move towards me and to build a connection towards me. And this, of course, for me or in general, is an unusual way, because connection should never be forceful. And in that case, it can't be real or it can't be lasting. Yeah. And that's very interesting, because in the past I did not know. I just didn't know how my life and my path, my way home, to my heart, how this can look like. I had no clue, and I had no plan, and I was not really in charge of, I couldn't really handle my life on my own, like in a way where I really knew what I did, like a person that's in control of a company, for example, or of a family. They call the shots, and they exactly know what they do, and which decisions they make. And for me, it was, I did make decisions, of course, but it was always like I had to surrender. It was always like in a survival mode, and it somehow it worked, but always with quite some pain, quite a huge amount of pain and of uncertainty. Yeah. And still, I'm feeling comfortable within my skin, to be honest. Yeah. And in those past years, I figured out really my passion towards the plants, towards nature, and towards life itself, like the depth of life, like creativity, like what life is actually about. And that's still my direction. I still head towards this direction, my soul. Yeah. And this was very late for me, because when I was a child, when I was younger, I always as well had some kind of connection to something higher, or to a great love, like a great feeling of love and feeling good within myself and stuff. And the disruptions came later when I went to school, and when you get older and stuff, I really lost this connection to my passions, because for example, I used to play an instrument when I was 8 years old. I started to play an instrument, or I really was good at school, and I really focused on school, on learning and having good marks at school and stuff. And this is where my all my creative energy flows into in the past. And I did not get something in return for that, because it did not really form me. It I didn't grow. My soul did not grow with those things. So this was a lot of years that was more or less wasted, to be honest, because I didn't assimilate, you know, how can you say it, energy, or I did not grow, like a plant that's not growing and it's still alive, but it's not really making any progress. Yeah. And this changed in the year of 2015-16. It was a very forceful change, and I really got kicked out of my comfort zone. And yeah, but that's really long ago. It's almost 10 years, as I said. And still I'm figuring out how to really live a life where really I call the shots, where I have my own stuff, where I can, you know, be on top and in charge of my own life. Like, I mean, I am, in fact, yeah, of course, but there are still in my surroundings still this harmonious factors and aspects that's always walking next to me, like a shadow walks next to me. And yeah, it's connected to a lot of patience. I need a lot of patience, and um, yeah, so strength, yeah, and faith. That's it. So yeah, so for example, other people, they have a job, they have their own life, and I always like wanted this for myself too. And I really looked up to people who just had a normal job and a structured life. Yeah. I mean, as many people say, everybody has his baggage to wear, and everybody has his own problems in life and stuff. And for me, it was like, but why? And and especially, I don't really see other people struggling. I never really saw this. I mean, you can kind of feel it. I felt it. I just compared myself, how I felt inside, and how I, like another person, what I feel when I saw another person. I could really very quite easily connect to this person and how this person feels. And for me, it was most of the time like, okay, I don't want to change. But at the same time, I look up to certain people who, have this structure in life. Yeah. And that's what I'm still working on: independence, freedom, and to have my own life with my own rules, and with my own as well, like, you know, my, yeah, my own world. I don't want to say with my own income and money, because as I said, money was never really the problem for me. I never really had a huge amount of money, but for me money has its own like logic. So it's not, you know, the hero. If you have like really huge amount of money, it's not really about the money, it's about how you handle and take care of finances, pretty much more than how much money you actually have. Yeah, and that's also always how I treated, or how I uh, was dealing with that kind of thing, you know. And yeah, and still I'm still feeling like I'm on top of, you know, of my life and in general. And yeah, still trying to figure out how to grow even more, to expand even more, how to reach out to people even more, and inspire and motivate other people, and in someday really, you know, um with the time really, I don't know how this process actually is supposed to look like. I don't know. I have the feeling everything is fine, even though it, if I would really look at the circumstance itself, you can all the time be terrified and wow, what a mess, and how much more to endure and stuff. But it doesn't really not feel like that, especially when you live in a moment, and when you feel yourself, when you ground yourself, and when you don't let other people like keep you small, keep you in a box. Because most of the people, I guess, it's what they say, and yes, it's kind of true. Most of the people, they want to keep you in a box because they are in a box and they are used to that kind of feeling. So I never really fitted in any kind of box, and for me, I always had to expand and like do this with the box. And this, of course, is connected to pain. Yeah, growth is usually, not always, but usually in my case, it's most of the time it's pain. And yeah, so I'm curious about the next steps for me in my life, because very often I find myself in a circumstance where I'm like, I'm standing here and so what should I do next? I'm fine. It's no big, like, I don't really have a big problem right now in my life. I'm fine, but I don't really know which further step or move to make in my life. So I'm usually quite passive and quite like I scan everything around me, and then I make decisions, or sometimes even decisions are made for me, or it's like kind of challenges. Somebody throws something at me and I have to kind of juggle it for a minute and make something out of it, and all the time coming out on top again. Like this happened to me my whole life, more or less. And that's my challenges. Yeah, and yeah, that's how it goes. And I'm really curious about the next years, about the future in general, and I will keep working on my plans. And I also want to keep working on my online presence, my voice, and something to make out of that, because there nobody really comes to me and says, "Hey, Roman, you have this and that talent. Let's make something out of it." Because nowadays, a lot of people, they do this themselves, and they go in front of a camera, like with social media, and they do this all by themselves. And I mean, that's the best way actually, because you are independent. And if somebody comes to you and tells you they want to make a star out of you or some, you know, then it's always also connected most of the time to money and which profit you can gain out of that person. Yeah, I mean, like in the music or film industry, it might not be very different. I really don't know, because if you're an actor or a singer, you most of the time, or usually, you are connected to some company with manager and with people that tell you more or less what to do, how to perform, or what to put your emphasis on, and yeah, and that's something I'm still figuring out. And for that, it's always important, or the most important part is always to have a connection to somebody. Yeah, and if it's just the fans or people that's watching, to have a certain kind of connection to those people. And that's at the same time also probably my biggest challenge, and I'm working on that with you guys. And yeah, that's it. And I will go now downstairs because the potatoes are in the pot with boiling water, and then we will eat afterwards. Yeah, bye guys.